Hello and welcome to Eur.future, a podcast that talks about your career after Euroculture. I'm your host, Hannah Voss, and today I'm with Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody. Today we are joined by Karin Jansen. Karin, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Karin Jansen. I am Dutch. I graduated from the Euroculture program in 2019. I studied at the first university in Groningen, and then for my second semester I went to Göttingen. I've been working since 2019, actually.
Thank you. We're very happy to have you.
Yes, we're very happy to have you, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today. So to start, we just wanted to talk a little bit about your current job. Can you briefly describe the organization that you work for and what your position entails, and how long that you've been with that organization?
I can. I have been working at my current job since August 2020. I'm working at the Dutch tax administration, so I'm working in government. I am basically a linking pin between the people that make policy and the people that implement that policy. I think it's a very fun and interesting position to be in. My official position is political and administrative advisor. So I also advise my boss and my director on certain cases. Moreover, I coordinate questions from Parliament that need to be answered by the tax administration. I don't actually answer the questions myself, but I make sure that other people do. I prepare for debates with my boss, and I make the preparations for the minister or the Secretary of State. I am one of the coordinators of the yearly tax plan, which consists of legislative changes in tax policy that need to be made every year. It's quite an intensive project, actually, and goes around all year. That's basically entails my job. It's quite diverse, which is what I really like it.
Yeah, it sounds like you do a lot of different things. I was going to ask what your daily tasks are, but you kind of already explained that, and it sounds like you have a lot of things going. So what is maybe your favorite thing that you do at this job?
As in a task, or what is the favorite thing that I like about my job in general?
It could be a task. It could be the favorite project that you've worked on so far, just something that you've been passionate about.
That's a really good question. What I'm really passionate about is working with people. So a lot of my job entails connecting the right people with the information, and that's sometimes quite difficult because the organization is very big. It's about 24,000 people. So sometimes it's like a puzzle, which I really like. What I really like about the job is that contributing to society. And then the thing I'm most passionate about is actually working with my colleagues, and that really creates an environment to working.
Yeah, you're involved in politics and it can be very frustrating and meticulous. But in the end, if you're making a difference in people's lives, it can be really great. And I'm very interested to hear about how Euroculture has helped you prepare for this, because I don't think I've learned anything about tax. So to me, that I wouldn't think to go into a position like this. So I'm excited to hear about how Euroculture helped you prepare for this position. Over to you, Jody.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. Karin, you said that you are in your current job since 2020. Before that, you worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. My position at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually started as my internship. After my second semester, I started at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in August of 2018. That was a position at the Brexit task force, which sounds really cool. I did my internship there for 6 months, and then afterwards they asked me to stay on. So then I worked part-time while I wrote my thesis, and then afterwards I stayed on for longer. And in the end, I had to leave there in April of 2020, because in the Netherlands you have this thing where you're not allowed to work for longer than 3 flex contracts. I needed to either leave or get a permanent contract, and it's quite difficult to get a permanent contract for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So then I started searching for a job.
Good. So you did look for your current job yourself. It's not like it was a natural continuation of, oh, we have a position there, you might go.
No.
Okay. So then regarding your job hunting, I guess you didn't have to start job hunting after graduation, so when is maybe a bit difficult to ask, but how long did it take you to look for this job?
Well, I knew my contract was going to end in April of 2020, so I think I started looking for a job in about December of 2019 then. But it wasn't a really serious search yet back then. Also because I didn't really know what I wanted yet, because I've been working in government, but I was afraid that if I would stay in government, then I would forever stay in government. So I was also looking around for consultancy agencies and also more in the commercial sector. Problem was that in March of 2020, we got hit with the coronavirus. We had to stay at home. It was quite difficult. Well, in the beginning, it wasn't that difficult, but you notice that after a while, mostly the consultancy agencies and in the commercial areas, there were not really a lot of job openings anymore. So then government actually became one of the only possibilities, which I didn't mind that much because, like I said, I still liked the work that I did for the government in general. So I started searching for a job in December, and I think I got the job in July. Well, I knew I got it in June, but I started working in August. So that's about 3-4 months.
Good. And did you use any specific platforms? Or I guess if you applied at the government, you look at the government site itself?
Yeah, well, I used LinkedIn. I thought that was quite useful. MagnetMe, that was quite good also to see if there were events in the neighborhood. Like with Corona, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but they also have really interesting webinars and events that they usually organize. Indeed, and what else? The government website, so Werken voor Nederland.
Okay, thank you. Well, you already did an internship at the government, but what kind of made you decide that you wanted to go do your internship there? What helped you narrow down the vast array of possibilities that you have with Euroculture?
That's a good question. My parents both worked in government, and that's something that always attracted me. I don't think that's what a lot of people say, that they're excited about a job in government, but I was. Well, of course, I searched for other internships as well, but this was then an internship that I came across, and I'd written quite a lot of papers about Brexit, and it was really one of my main topics of interest. So it was actually a perfect match for me. And then the interview went well and they accepted me. So it was an obvious choice in the end.
And that's great. For your current position, do you have maybe any insights into what helped you get the position? Some specific qualities or experiences that the government's looking for?
Yes, I think I do. I think what the government is really looking for is smart, intelligent people that pick up on things quickly. Because what I've noticed is, of course, in government, there's a lot of positions that are very focused on a particular topic. So then they ask for some knowledge in a certain area. But what I've noticed is the government is really expanding at the moment. And what they're just mostly looking for is young people that are motivated and that are willing to learn. And if you can show that you can master a topic very quickly, it doesn't really matter whether you have that knowledge, yes or no. It mostly matters that you are well prepared for your interview, so you can show that you've done some research in the field and that you already know the main topics and the biggest problems and the main risks that are associated with a certain topic. You are very willing to learn. And of course, there's people that are going to say you don't have the experience or you don't have the knowledge. But I've noticed that enthusiasm and a willingness to learn is very important.
Okay, that's good because it takes a little bit of the pressure of being very specific in your topic or having exactly worked in that area, and then you can apply for it. Yes, we would also like to ask you some questions about the Euroculture program and maybe how it relates to your job, and that will be done by Hannah.
So the first question is, how did your dreams for the future change before or after your participation in Euroculture? Because I know for me, it was really great. I mean, I went to school in the US and I had classes with people who generally were interested in the same topic, but this is the first time that I've been in such an international classroom with people who are passionate about the same general topics. Yeah, how has your perspective changed during the program?
I had actually finished my high school in France. Then I moved back to the Netherlands to do my studies, which was university college, so liberal arts and sciences, which is 70% international program. So I was already quite used to the whole international program, and that's also something I specifically looked for when I looked for my master's, because I really enjoyed that dynamic. But I think my dreams for the future before Euroculture, I think they were more internationally focused than what I am doing now. But that's also because what I'm doing now I think is very interesting, but I am missing a bit of that international connection. I really like working with people from different nationalities. I really enjoy the international, the dynamic an international group can bring and the different cultures that come with it. So that is something I am missing now. I'm very, very Dutch focused at the moment. When I first started Euroculture, I thought I would end up in Brussels. But now, well, I don't really know where I'm going to end up, actually. This is not my dream job. I do really like it, but it's not my dream job. And I do still think that I want to go abroad for a little bit, or at least work in a more international context. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does answer my question. I mean, the likelihood of us landing our dream job so soon after graduation it's just not likely. You know, we're all exploring what we want to do with our lives. And I think it's good to try out different things, because then you'll get to know what you're really passionate about.
Yeah, of course. And I think that has also changed a bit with our generation. I think the previous generation has really been focused on finding a good job and then just staying there for a long time. And I feel like a lot of us are just trying to figure out what we want, but at the same time, we're still quite flexible. The fact that I didn't have a permanent contract didn't bother me, because I was thinking, well, I think after 2-3 years somewhere, or maybe 5, I'm totally okay with moving on and doing something else. That's also the fun thing about Euroculture. Most people are interested in many different topics. So if you find a job on a certain topic, then you can explore that for a little bit. And then after a while, if you think you've seen it all, you can just move on.
Sure, yeah. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about your third semester experience, how your internship was, and if it prepared you well for either the current job or just for general in the workforce.
Yes, internship is extremely valuable, I think. Although I did also consider the research track, I thought that the internship would prepare me better for working life, and I'm pretty sure it has. It's very interesting to go from studying to working a 9-to-5 job, in essence. You really learn how to set an agenda, how to take notes, honestly, how to answer emails. The first few weeks I was there, I was just, every time I wrote an email, it took me so long because I was just editing, and now after a while you're just like, oh, okay, thanks, bye. It's very strange how that changes quite quickly, but it is something that you have to get used to. Of course, you can get used to it without an internship, but I did think it gave me both the experience, but also the network that was quite useful in my further explorations, because a lot of people that worked there already had experience within the government. I was able to talk to them about, hey, what have your experience been with the different ministries? I knew quite a lot of people from different ministries, because the Brexit topic was so broad and so general that all different ministries were committed to it. So I knew quite a few people from different ministries as well. And I still have a lot of contact actually with most of my former colleagues. So yes, I do think that an internship has really prepared me well, but it was mostly making the contacts, creating a network, and just like the basic learning how to be in an office kind of stuff. You can figure that out in the first few weeks, so that's not something that you're missing out on if you're doing a research track or something.
And I know research tracks are in different universities, so in some of them it's similar to a research job, so it's not even that different from having an internship. I think it depends on. And I think also part of learning to be in an office and how to interact with coworkers, it's just about understanding people and understanding vibes, which I think your culture helps a lot, because, you know, you're meeting new people all the time, and you quickly, because you're working on projects together, you have to get to know each other and figure out how to work well together with people from totally different backgrounds who've never spoken to before. So I think that's basically what working in an office, it's like, okay, maybe I wouldn't want to hang out with you outside of this, but we got to work together and we're going to make it happen.
Yes, that is true. It's the fun thing about Euroculture, that you work together a lot, you work in groups a lot. And, or at least in my job, I have to work with many different people from also many different backgrounds. And it's always like in the beginning a bit of a puzzle, like how are we going to get on, and what works for you, what works for me. And you have to adapt to that. And I think that Euroculture really helps with that, like being flexible in a social context.
One more question for you, which is your thesis topic. I'd be interested to know what your thesis topic was. And is it something that you're considering pursuing more in the future, or is it something that you get your thesis done and now you want to move on and learn about other things?
My thesis topic talked about rule of law in Hungary. I have to admit my thesis wasn't great, but that was mostly because I worked part-time while I was working on my thesis. I do think it's a really interesting topic. It is something that I miss currently in my job a little bit. The academic challenge, or really focusing on on one single topic and then diving deeply into it and exploring some new things. I think that is something that I do miss in my current job. So that is something to consider for the next job when I'm looking for it. But honestly, no, I don't think I would do anything more with my thesis for a job specifically, no.
I think everybody works at different paces. So some people could, they could do a full-time job and write a thesis at the same time. I can't do that. What my mom always says is it's just a grade. I mean, care about it, sure, but it's not the most important thing in the world.
No, my mom says the same thing. She says you just need to graduate and then you can show that you have like a certain level of understanding and you have a certain level that you can work at. Because in essence, if you look at a lot of job openings, it also says you need to have at least this level. And then sometimes it asks okay, you need more experience in this and this and this field. But mostly it's just about the level of understanding and the level of thinking that you need to attain. Both my parents studied something that in the end they didn't work on at all. So both my parents always told me, you just need to graduate, and then afterwards you'll figure out what you like and you can just roll into it. And maybe that's like a very optimistic way of thinking, but I do think that it's good that you don't be too focused on this is the area that I studied and this is what I'm forever going to do, because that's just not true. You can if you want to, but there is still millions of other opportunities out there, and you shouldn't feel limited by what you've studied.
Now I'm going to thank you for answering those questions. I'm going to turn it back over to Jody.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to your thesis conversation that I felt the pressure that I would have to pick research topics that I would maybe later want to use in life, like maybe for the IP, where they say that could be a basis for your thesis, and then your thesis could be a basis for your job. And if you think about it like, oh, that all should be in one specific direction, which I want to go in, that can be a lot of pressure when you don't know exactly what you want to do.
Well, if I can just quickly add to that.
Yeah.
It is useful if you have certain topics that you're interested in, that you can show that you've worked on a paper for a certain topic. For example, I would like to go more towards like environmental sciences actually, but I haven't done anything like that during my studies. And if I would have been able to show that during my studies I at least did some of that, then you can also show during job interviews like, oh, look, I may not have the experience or I may not have studied environmental sciences, but I've done like a small part of my studies, I have been focused on that. If there are still people out there that are considering their thesis topic and that are still considering research tracks or whatever, I would advise you to think ahead and think about, hey, is this something that I might also want to work on later in life? Because that can be useful, especially in the starting phases of job hunting, because then your academic experience is pretty much all you have.
That's true. It's a good reminder. One of our general questions is more, what is your hope for the future? You said you want to go abroad, maybe. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Honestly, I'm not someone who thinks about the future a lot. But yeah, like I said, this isn't my dream job, so I do think that within 2-3 years I'll move on from this. And then the thing is, there's so many things open. I do really like working for the government, but then I might think about working more for the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. I think that would be quite interesting. I would also still like working abroad. I would also kind of like to work for an embassy at some point, because that seems very interesting to me. I don't know, there's just too many things. And I'm kind of excited about that because we're still young. We can do a lot of things. If you're quite flexible, you can just work a job like 3 to 5 years and then move on again. I think that's just what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And you don't have to stay in one job for like 50 years and never do anything else. Everyone's different, yeah. I also, at the moment, I couldn't imagine it, but you never know. But it's great that you have so many different things that you still want to do. It also shows, again, your interests are very diverse, as is the program, to be honest, so you can still go into a lot of directions. Yes, our last question would be, do you have anything to say to Euroculture students, either in general or regarding Euroculture students or prospective students that might want to go into the government later on?
The advice I would give to current Euroculture students is enjoy the time you have. When you're studying, sometimes you're just like, oh God, another paper, blah, blah, blah. Don't make your studies everything you have in your life. Enjoy the time you have. Do everything you can now. Of course, you're going to be looking forward to having a job, but when you're having a job, you're just like, oh, that's working 9 to 5 every single day, and you just don't have the same freedom and flexibility.
Do you have any advice for people who want to work in government positions later?
Oh, in government positions, like I said before, while interviewing, show that you can quickly get the hang of a certain topic. People in government aren't scary. They're actually really, really nice. During your interview, you should also just find a good vibe with someone. An interview is not just for them to see whether you are a good within the team, but it's also for you to see whether they are someone you want to work for. Because I've noticed that where you work does matter, but sometimes who you work with is actually way more important. Interviewing is also just like, sometimes you got to do 25 of them before you find a job. And think of it every time as this is a new experience. This is something that I can use for the next interview. Don't get disappointed, don't get let down, don't give up, because there's always going to be a position somewhere that you really feel good and they will feel good about you, and you will definitely always find someone. And don't be afraid to use the network you have, because it's very, like, the Euroculture network is extremely extensive. And if you would message someone, hey, I'm a Euroculture student, anyone would say, oh, okay, I'll help you any way I can.
Yeah, good. So I do think that that's a great part of our program, actually, the network, and that everyone is just willing to help and be there for each other. Thank you anyway for talking to us, and thank you to anyone who has listened to this podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you, Karin.
Goodbye. Thank you for having me.